I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say. Say them loud, say them clear, for the whole round world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree that every man should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things that I can do, though I'm way overdue. I'd be starting anew. Well, I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if by my heart I could fly. I'd soar to the sun and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing, 'cause I know, yeah. And I'd sing, hey, 'cause I know, yeah. And I'd sing, hey, 'cause I know how it feels. I know how it feels to be free. Yeah, yeah, I know how it feels. Let's turn it on. I know how it feels to be free. No, no, no.
Hi, this is Vanshika from Hyderabad Urban Lab, and you just heard I Wish I Knew How by Nina Simone. This has been, along with the likes of To Be Young, Gifted and Black and For Women, some of her powerful songs that detail questions of identity for women of color in a post-emancipation America. You're listening to your Weekend City playlist, Women at Work. This will be a mix in English and Hindi, but with that, I'd like our listeners to know that going by our past playlists, we do indeed seem to be biased towards music from Hindi films, and we do try to cut across genres here and there, but we are very, very open to other pieces as well. So if it's language that you're second guessing before sending in recommendations or suggestions, please don't. We'd love to work with multiple languages, as we have very recently debuted with Telugu and Kannada tracks. This week, what we've thought of putting together in Women at Work are snippets from Hindi cinema and a few audio pieces in English, where we try not to opine but give you a glimpse into the projection of a few select working women characters in Hindi cinema, along with some songs. With me to talk about Women at Work, let me introduce you to who we fondly call the DQ, Design Queen of Hyderabad Urban Lab, Neha Vaddadi. Neha is an architect who has a keen interest in designing and visualizing stories and narratives that come out of the various projects at HUL. She's been working on women in the urban environment under an umbrella project called A Place for Her. She has just recently finished the composition work of Calendar Girls, HUL's 2017 calendar. Welcome, Neha, on this week's City playlist. We have a lot to talk, but before anything else, let me shoot a fundamental question that will set the tenor of our playlist this week. Working woman is a somewhat redundant question, because you think work, you think women, and vice versa. Given this, what is your work on working women looking at, and why?
Hello to everyone who's listening to this playlist. So to begin with, HUL's work on women and women at work started with the observation that if we look around, in any building, any neighborhood, any street, one will always find a sizable number of women working, and they're always working round the clock. They may be mothers, they may be laundry women, street sweepers, vegetable vendors, just to give a few examples. But because women are doing this so silently and so unassumingly, one often overlooks their existence and therefore their needs. So usually when men work, it is considered to be a really big deal, but that's not the case when women are working. So this project aims to look at women in the informal sector rather than our general notion of the salary drawing working woman sitting behind a desk in a building. The ones we are looking at work outside of a structural framework with no security and often no support of any kind,
Right.
and are absolutely crucial to the running of our cities. For example, homes that you and I are sort of part of are heavily dependent on domestic help.
Right.
And when a maid does not show up on a given day, usually things fall apart and everything is mayhem in the house. But nobody in the house would sort of think about why she may not have come. You know, did she fall ill? Is she waiting to store running water for the next 3 days? Did her husband beat her up, or are her children unwell? So, you know, is it okay for us to say that these are not our problems?
So, if I'm getting this right, then the acknowledgement of working women being a part of the economy maneuvers through a general perception of women working in offices, schools, universities, corporate houses, and mostly formal establishments. What your work is focusing on is a range of working women, their contributions and concerns in the informal economy. Working on pavements, in other people's homes, at bus stands, and so many public spaces. So, and who are essential for the life and the basic working of our city, and it's high time that we acknowledge their presence and understand their ways of being. Taken from that, Calendar Girls, HUL's calendar for 2017 is out. Can you tell us a little about that? What is the calendar trying to accomplish?
So Calendar Girls is one of the products of the Working Women Project. So to put it very simply, it's an ode to women working in urban spaces, especially in the informal economy. It is to bring to light the importance of the work they do for the running of the city without even receiving a steady wage, without receiving health insurance, without access to public transport, drinking water or toilets, which are basic needs for anybody who's living and working in a city.
Right.
This calendar is basically for the women themselves to acknowledge that their existence and contribution is quite significant to the city, and of course to the rest of the population to realize that without them and without their services, the city cannot run at all.
Right, and with that, it's time to play an audio. Since we have started talking about women working on the streets, let's begin with the street performer and the toy seller. We'll be playing two back-to-back tracks. The first one featuring Sadhna in Jhumka Gira Re, film Hai Mera Saya. This was released in 1966. The music is composed by Madan Mohan. Following the street performer comes the toy seller. The song is Tak Tak Dhoom Dhoom from the film Do Aankhein Barah Haath, sung by Lata Mangeshkar. The music is given by Vasant Desai. The toy seller has a lot to say, as does Neha. We'll meet you after two back-to-back tracks in about 7 minutes.
झुमका गिरा रे हाय झुमका गिरा रे बरेली के बाजार में झुमका गिरा रे बरेली के बाजार में झुमका गिरा गिरा झुमका गिरा हाय 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 झुमका गिरा रे बरेली के बाजार में झुमका गिरा रे पहना दो आजा बाकी छोड़ी
हुआ?
फिर झुमका गिरा रे, हम दोनों की तकरार में झुमका गिरा रे, हम दोनों की तकरार में झुमका गिरा रे, बरेली के बाजार में झुमका गिरा रे। घर की छत पे मैं खड़ी, गली में दिल भर जानी, घर की छत पे मैं खड़ी, गली में दिल भर जानी, हंस के बोले नीचे आ, अब नीचे आ दीवानी, या अंगूठी फेंक अपनी या छल्ला दे निशानी, घर की छत पे खड़े खड़े मैं हुई शर्म से पानी, मैं हुई शर्म से पानी।
फिर क्या हुआ?
दया फिर झुमका गिरा रे, हम दोनों के इस प्यार में झुमका गिरा रे, हम दोनों के इस प्यार में झुमका गिरा रे, बरेली के बाजार में झुमका। आओ आओ होनहारो प्यारे बच्चे, प्यारे बच्चे उम्र के कच्चे, बात के सच्चे, जीवन की एक बात बताऊं, जीवन की एक बात बताऊं, मुसीबतों से डरो नहीं, बुज़दिल बन के मरो नहीं, रोते रोते क्या है जीना, नाचो दुख में तान के सीना, नाचो दुख में तान के सीना, तक तक धुम धुम 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 तक तक धुम ध रात अंधियारी हो, गिरी घटाएं कारी हो, रास्ता सुनसान हो, आंधी और तूफान हो, मंजिल तेरी दूर हो, मंजिल तेरी दूर हो, पाँव तेरे मजबूर हो, तो क्या करोगे? रुक जाओगे? ना, तो क्या करोगे?
Welcome back. You're listening to your city playlist, Women at Work, and I am in conversation with Neha Vaddadi. Neha just spoke about how her work particularly focuses on the women in the informal economy. And with that, Neha, can you tell us about marriage, pregnancy, or motherhood? How do you think these end up defining a woman's competency in terms of work?
So just speaking from some of the experiences I have had as a professional applying for jobs, or hearing about my contemporaries applying for jobs. So I've heard of a few young women in their 20s applying for jobs and going for interviews, and at the interviews they're asked about their marriage plans, which seems a bit irrelevant, but apparently this is what happens in most interviews with young women. So if a woman is, say, planning to get married in the next 2 years, then she wouldn't get like a 3-year contract or something, because they already assume that you're not going to be able to fulfill your tasks and you may have to leave. But the same thing is not applicable to men at all. They never ask these questions. Another incident comes to mind. A friend of mine who's also an architect, so she wanted to desperately join this office, and she had been trying to get in for a couple of months, and after a lot of attempts she finally sort of got a call for an interview, and all of that came through. She joined the office, and then a couple of months down the line she found out that she was pregnant. So now, being a woman architect in a male dominated profession is already quite a task, but to be pregnant is even worse.
Right.
So, work environments are not structurally equipped to address the needs of a pregnant woman at all. So, these women are expected to continue working as if their condition is normal. So, this sort of entails, if you're an architect, this entails visiting dusty construction sites, and these are all still buildings being built, so there's no lift or an elevator or anything. So, they're expected to climb up, 3 or 4 stories. And then you have to stand for hours on end and sort of direct the laborers and contractors, and that only happens if you're screaming at the top of your voices, because otherwise the men don't take you seriously, especially if you're pregnant. So at the end of it, it's the woman who comes across as the demanding one, who's not performing the tasks she's expected to. The male boss and the structure of the organization is never sort of questioned. It's always a woman who's, at fault or looked at as fault. So at the end of maybe a month or two, my friend had to quit her job because it wasn't working out for her and her health was deteriorating. So this is in a more formalized sort of a setup. But if you look at the informal economy, pregnancy can be much more difficult because first of all, there is no, proper healthcare is never accessible to that strata of women. But for a pregnant, say a street food vendor who has to set up a table on a footpath on the road with a daily work routine involving several hours of standing in the hot sun, serving her customers who are mostly men, to have absolutely no access to toilets, especially when you're pregnant, you have to go quite often to the toilet. There are no public toilets. So this is kind of appalling. How is it normal for the situation to even exist? Of course, the woman will have to shut shop when it gets too much for her to handle, right? What other way is there? But the blame will fall on her. So she'll have to hear things like, you are not capable of handling it. It was going to be like this. So who asked you to do it in the first place?
So it's like this. On one hand, the society is demanding these marriage, pregnancy, motherhood from a woman, and on the other hand, at work, you're crafting or you're putting across these as problems. How do you think things can change with policy?
I think to bring about a policy level change, first of all, these problems have to become visible. They have to be internalized as unacceptable. Until that sort of happens, we'll, for example, we'll keep building box-like public toilets just for the heck of it, placed at locations that are inaccessible for those who desperately need it. They'll be continued to be used as billboards for advertisements instead of serving their purpose. It's also not difficult to make small interventions into systems that already exist. You don't have to make drastic changes and start at like a very huge level, because things are already working and these women are working in spite of what is happening and not happening. They're not waiting for something to happen for them to go out there and work. So how difficult is it to take their basic needs into consideration, such as organizing a drinking water kiosk every 100 meters, or organizing a team of young volunteers on roster to check if the women are okay or if they need anything. It's not that difficult to organize these things if you're really up to the task and want to do them.
Absolutely. And with that, it's time once again for us to play our audio tracks. This part is for all of us who admire Smita Patil. I'm playing one of her clips from Shyam Benegal's Bhumika, where her journey as an actress is chronicled, going back and forth from her childhood to her being a young adult, thinking about all the choices she made. The film is broadly based on the Marathi language memoirs, Sangatyayika, of the well-known Marathi stage and screen actress of the 1940s, Hansa Vadkar. The part that I'm playing from the plot is where Usha, played by Smita Patil, has been married to Amol Palekar, who's playing the role of Keshav, who used to be around her mother when she was a child, and he himself took her to audition in Bombay. She chooses to marry him, and this is their exchange after she's just finished a shot for a film, and now she wants to spend some time with her child. I'm playing after that Main Albeli from the film Zubeida, featuring Karishma Kapoor, sung by Kavita Krishnamurthy. This part comes when Zubeida is eager to work as an actress, but hailing from a conventional family that does not allow her to do so, finds a way to con her father, and with the help of her aunt ends up performing a number. For Usha, acting is a breadwinning necessity. For Zubeida, it's a heartfelt desire. Two back-to-back tracks. What follows this is a very small 2 minutes interview by Margaret Atwood telling us how she taught her students to think about authorship, not in the sense of what it means to write as a woman, but more on also what happens once you've written a book.
Take 2. Action.
सीता जी अग्नि परीक्षा देकर अपनी पवित्रता का सबूत दे गई, पर मेरे लिए कौन सा उपाय है बताइए? मैं कौन सी अग्नि परीक्षा दूं? माय लॉर्ड, मैं अपने आप को कैसे बेकसूर साबित करूं बताइए? अगर सीता की अग्नि परीक्षा नहीं दे सकते तो मुझे मीरा के जहर का प्याला दिया जाए, तभी एक पतिव्रता के साथ सच्चा इंसाफ होगा माय लॉर्ड। ओके?
वाह वाह, ए वाला सीन बहुत कमाल है।
बिल्कुल, क्या बात है उर्वशी जी, वाह, बंगाली सिनेमा का अंडर एक्ट, बहुत बढ़िया।
अच्छा मैं चलती।
आप कितने बजे पहुंच रही हैं?
कहाँ?
पार्टी में।
हरिलाल जी, मैं पार्टी में नहीं आ सकती। सुषमा से मैंने कहा था उसे बाहर लेके जाऊंगी।
पर दलवी साहब ने तो हाँ कर दी थी और फिर बहुत से प्रेस वाले आ रहे हैं और नवी फिल्म भी तो अनाउंस करनी है।
तुम अभी वैसे के वैसे ही बैठी हो, टाइम का होश तक नहीं रहता। शांता भाई, सुषमा को अंदर ले जाओ और
चुप, मैं नहीं जाऊंगी।
सुशु बेटे, सुशु बेटा, ऐसा नहीं करते। आई को पार्टी में जाना है, तू आजी के साथ बैठ।
नहीं बेटा नहीं, इधर मैं नहीं जाऊंगी।
तुम तैयार हो जाओ।
मैं नहीं जाऊंगी, मैं नहीं जाऊंगी। हाँ?
मैंने कहा ना, तुम तैयार हो जाओ।
तुमको जाना है तो तुम जाओ, मैं नहीं आऊंगी पार्टी वार्टी में। मैं सुशु के साथ रहूंगी।
तुम राजन के साथ जो नई फिल्म कर रही हो, उसकी खबर देनी है प्रेस को।
राजन के साथ?
स्टूडियो का क्या हाल चाल है?
अजी, स्टूडियोज का जमाना खत्म ही समझिए। अब तो स्टारों का जमाना आएगा और वो स्टार भी खूब मोटी रकम वसूल करेंगे। खुद का डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन है। अरे जिस दलल्ले से वो मोटर बनाते हैं उसी रफ्तार से फिल्में भी। लीजिए। हमारी रोहित साहब आ गई।
नमस्ते हरिलाल जी।
उषा, मुबारक हो। मुझे? हाँ। इन्हें दो। अपना बिजनेस चाहे ठप कर दे, मेरा प्राइस तो बढ़ाते ही रहते हैं।
रंगीली हो, सजीली हो, रंगीली हो, सजीली हो। Albeli ho, Albeli ho।
मैं अलबेली घूमूं अकेली, कोई पहेली हूँ मैं। हाँ, मैं अलबेली घूमूं अकेली, कोई पहेली हूँ मैं। अगली हवाएं मुझे जहाँ भी ले जाए, इन हवाओं की सहेली हूँ मैं।
तू है रंगीली हो, तू है सजीली हो।
हिरनी हूँ मन में, कली गुलशन में, शबनम कभी हूँ मैं, कभी हूँ शोला। शाम और सवेरे सौ रंग मेरे, मैं भी नहीं जानू आखिर हूँ मैं क्या।
तू अकेली घूमे अकेली, कोई पहेली है तू। पगली हवाएं तुझे जहाँ भी ले जाए, इन हवाओं की सहेली है तू।
Are there systemic issues as to why some years there are more women who are in the conversation than less, or is it just coincidental?
Once upon a time, before there was an internet,
Right.
and things were a lot harder to research.
Right.
I made my unfortunate students do the following. I made them read all of the newspapers for a whole year, all of the book sections of all of the newspapers, and I made them count how many books by women were reviewed and how many books by men were reviewed. And then I made them count how many books of women were reviewed by women and how many books of women were reviewed by men and how many books of men were reviewed by men and how many books of men were reviewed by women.
Right.
And then I made them count words like solipsistic.
Why? I understand the
Because-
first part, but why solipsistic?
Because that was a word that often got applied to women writers and never got applied to men writers. And then I got them to count the following. If a woman writer was considered good, this is back in 1971, not now, she would be considered an honorary man. And if a man writer was considered bad, he would be considered a wussy woman type of person.
Who were writing these reviews back then?
Old people. People who are now dead, George.
Right.
And we do not speak ill of the dead, but that's what they were doing then. I'm sure they're doing nothing of the kind now.
No.
No.
No, it's changed.
No, yes.
Welcome back once again. You're listening to Neha Vaddadi talking to us in our city playlist Women at Work. Neha, what do you think about the notion that since you work, you must suffer? How do you think this dictum can be broken?
That's a difficult one. I think because of a lack of basic infrastructure in our cities, just to make life a little easier, and also the way our social structure is sort of constructed, unfortunately, it is looked at as suffering if a woman has to go out and work. Because people will never look at this as a lack of proper provision for easy mobility and comfort at work. Instead, it'll be looked at as the woman's lack of judgment. I mean, if you suppose you've had a bad day, so then you'll have to hear about it like, well, it was your decision to work, you started a business, so now you have to suffer. You should have just sat at home and none of this would have happened.
So it's like I'm not even allowed to sort of have a day where like it just didn't go as I planned it to be.
And it's not usually your fault, right? It's things that are out of your control that are sort of to be blamed. So I mean, questions like why should she have to suffer in the first place? Why should that be the question at all? And why should work feel like such a burden, such a difficult task for a woman? Like, why does she have to struggle to accomplish this? I mean, I don't know how this dictum can sort of be broken, because the city really feels like this thickly knotted up ball of wool, You cannot undo one knot without tugging at 2 or 3 other issues that you have to sort of deal with. So I don't think we're asking the right questions, which is why we're not able to hit the nail on the head. So until that happens, I feel like it's going to continue the way it is.
But in your interviews, have you encountered any narrative where safety at work has been spoken about?
Safety hasn't been spoken of in the direct sense of, say, violence or threat, which is what we sort of associate with when we talk about safety. Because working in these exposed, unprotected sort of environments has hardened most of the women who are working out there. But that said, our neighborhoods and streets are not really the safest places for women to be working, especially those who are new and who are working alone, not in like a group or a team. So there's always a threat of, say, local mafia collecting money from them, or harassment by the customers that street vendors constantly face. And these customers are mostly men, and sometimes they're also drunk, whether it's midday or morning or evening or night. And these vendors are usually, these carts are usually manned by single women. There's no, group, there's not team, or there's no, her husband is usually not with her. She's usually manning the cart on her own. So that gets a bit dicey for her to manage. She'll probably have to devise some sort of a, quick and smart way to evade the entire thing. And there are also things like, if there are threats that street sweepers face all the time, because they're working usually post midnight till early morning, and they're always sweeping at the edges of roads and on flyovers and things. So we always hear of speeding cars and bikes. So what if one of these vehicles were to just hit her and leave, what happens to her and what happens to her family then? Immediately what happens in a situation like that? And then there are always health hazards which nobody really talks of in these jobs, and most of these health hazards are quite they're irreversible, because you stand for long hours, you're constantly bending and lifting, and the women sort of ignore these small irritants that they have in their body until it becomes really unbearable, because they have to keep going at it every day. They cannot take a leave casually just because they have like a back pain or something like that. They cannot afford to do that. And then there are some cases where there may be also a fire hazard, because in a cart where a woman is sort of deep frying food in hot oil, she also has below the cart a kerosene ka can, or a spare gas cylinder that she keeps. And on a hot day with hot oil and the gas on, and there's a gas cylinder or a kerosene ka can below, it is a direct hazard, right?
Absolutely.
And she's doing this on her own, and there's nobody to help her when this is happening. So safety is always an issue, but these women seem to be working in spite of that.
Right. Well, there's time for one more track, and what I'm playing is Wo Ada Kahan Se Laun from the film Devdas. This one was released in 1955. Now, it's hard to imagine the life of sex workers as well, to be peaceful lives with gentle patrons like Dilip Kumar as in Devdas. But in reality, this might just be a closed chamber life of toil, insecurity, and not to forget the obsession of our society to mark individuals as worthy or unworthy, respectful or not. This one selection is by Lata Mangeshkar. What follows this is a classic diatribe between Kishore Kumar and Geeta Dutt, pointing to the debate on considering housework as a proper recognized job or not for the kind of labor that goes into it. The song is Kamata Hoon Bahut Kuch Mein. Two back-to-back tracks. Once again, we'll be in conversation with Neha very shortly.
जिसे तू कबूल कर ले वादा कहाँ से लाऊं, तेरे दिल को जो लुभा ले वो सदा कहाँ से लाऊं, जिसे तू कबूल कर ले। मैं वो फूल हूँ कि जिसको गया है कोई मसल के, मेरी उम्र बह गई है मेरे आंसुओं में ढल के। मैं वो फूल हूँ कि जिसको गया है कोई मसल के, मेरी उम्र बह गई है मेरे आंसुओं में ढल के। जो बहार बन के बरसे वो घटा कहाँ से लाऊं, तेरे दिल को जो लुभा ले वो सदा कहाँ से लाऊं, जिसे तू कबूल कर ले। तुझे और की तमन्ना मुझे तेरी आरज़ू है, तेरे दिल में हम ही हम हैं, मेरे दिल में तू ही तू है। तुझे और की तमन्ना मुझे तेरी आरज़ू है, तेरे दिल में हम ही हम हैं, मेरे दिल में तू ही तू है। जो दिलों को चैन दे दे वो दवा कहाँ से लाऊं, तेरे दिल को जो लुभा ले वो सदा कहाँ से लाऊं, जिसे तू कबूल कर ले। मेरी बेबसी है जाहिर, मेरी आहें बेअसर से, कभी मौत भी जो मांगी तो न पाई उसके दर से। मेरी
कमाता हूँ बहुत कुछ पर कमाई डूब जाती है, कमाता हूँ बहुत कुछ पर कमाई डूब जाती है। कुछ इनकम टैक्स ले जाता है, कुछ बीवी उड़ाती है, कुछ इनकम टैक्स ले जाता है, कुछ बीवी उड़ाती है। कमाता हूँ बहुत कुछ पर कमाई डूब जाती है।
अच्छा कहो तुम कुछ भी लेकिन ये समझदारों का कहना है, कहो तुम कुछ भी लेकिन ये समझदारों का कहना है। क्या लुटा देते हैं घर को मर्द, औरत घर बनाती है। लुटा देते हैं घर को मर्द, औरत घर बनाती है।
हाँ तेरी इन साड़ियों ने जम्परों ने मार डाला है, तेरी इन साड़ियों ने अरे जम्फरों ने मार डाला है। तेरी दीवाली की खातिर मेरा निकला दिवाला है। मैं कड़का हूँ, मैं कड़का हूँ, मैं कड़का जेब से तू सेंट कपड़ों में लगाती है। मैं कड़का जेब से तू सेंट कपड़ों में लगाती है। कमाता हूँ बहुत कुछ पर कमाई डूब जाती है।
बसें भी शहर में चलती हैं।
तो चलने तो क्या हुआ?
बसें भी शहर में चलती है, क्यों टैक्सी में जाते हो, सिनेमा देखते हो, होटलों के बिल चुकाते हो। कमाई आधी बाहर और आधी घर में आती है, कमाई आधी बाहर और आधी घर में आती है। लुटा देते हैं घर को मर्द, औरत घर बनाती है। कमाता हूँ बहुत कुछ पर कमाई डूब जाती है।
And with this, we have come to the end of this week's City playlist. Neha, before we sign off, one last question. As a privileged woman worker, what issues are you likely to encounter, and what kind of privileges would be of use to the women you have interacted with?
I feel like in an office environment, as a privileged woman worker, I think women are often compelled to be a little louder or a little pushy and aggressive if they have to have a say in things. Otherwise, men, I don't know, they have this tendency to sort of hijack everything from conversations to contacts. Women also have to know twice as much, they have to stretch themselves twice as much to get to where they are, I suppose. Otherwise, if you're quiet like me, people will sort of walk all over you or explain things to you even when you've understood, or they will think that you're a college student who's shy and inexperienced. I mean, I feel like women have to speak up and work twice as hard where men necessarily don't have to. But I think one of the reasons why a workplace may be considered a privileged sort of a space, like an office space for example, is because you have access to multiple facilities that the women we are looking at in the informal economy probably don't. So for example, the lady who comes to clean our office, because of the kind of space that this is, she gets to use our bathroom, she has access to clean drinking water, she has access to safe food, and she has a place to sit down and rest if she's tired. She has access to a first aid kit and some basic medicines in case she has a cold or she has a headache, which is easily possible given her day. And she also has the opportunity to interact with people that she normally would not have the opportunity to. And it goes both ways. So people in the office also have the opportunity to interact with a person who is working in another sector, but not in that I am your employer kind of a scenario. So what if another office close by sort of adopts one or two women who are working on the street in front of them, let's say, and what if they were to allow access to their facilities through the day? Because infrastructure such as toilets and drinking water they're basic, but they're everywhere. You know, every building has these things, but it's not accessible and to everybody. It is restricted and divided, just like how our societal structure is. So what if we were to open it up a little bit? We may not have to build as many public toilets on the street as we plan to, if only we were to be a little flexible with the way we think about these things.
Right, absolutely.
So at least if not for everybody, it cannot cater to everybody obviously, but just at least for the women who are working out there, because every neighborhood, every street will have people who are either stationary or passing through there on a daily basis. So what if 1 or 2 women were to access each toilet in each building just for a couple of hours or something? So I mean, that could be a start.
So it's like when we can get ourselves to think about neighborhoods as such, and we recognize that some of the people who we are often just passing by and not noticing are actually contributing to the sustainability of our neighborhoods, and it's time that we opened our gates towards them. Right. Thank you so much for taking out time and talking to us in this podcast, Neha.
Thank you.
Thank you to all our listeners for lending us your ears. Do tell us your song suggestions. Do tell us your work experiences. I'm going to leave you with a classic track called Respect by Aretha Franklin. This is Vanshika from Hyderabad Urban Lab, and I will see you again next week.